That's good. Welcome back, Facebook. Here we are. It's Thursday. It's time for My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Shep. Mary, how are you?
Hi, Pete. How you doing? You look so different today, Pete.
Well, it's the diet.
You're
my low
right.
sodium. My low sodium diet. I decided to put more salt in the beard.
That's funny. That's funny.
So,
like always, I'm trying to figure out how to. Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh, there we are. Hey, look, we're live.
Hi, Stephanie. Do we have sound now?
We had a little technical difficulty a second ago.
Technical difficulty.
We fixed it. Kent's amazing.
That's a nice thing about. That's the nice thing about having radio.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem with radio. It's this video stuff that we always get stuck on. But you know what? It's a beautiful thing.
Agreed. So last week we talked about, as Pete liked to call it, dining al fresco.
Yes, eating out.
Yeah, we were talking about eating out.
Yes. That could be what's in your loaf later today.
Right. Yeah, there was fun stuff with that one. But so yeah, the trials and tribulations of eating out and going out to a restaurant or something. And afterwards, I got a lot of questions about not just going to restaurants, but family.
Yeah.
Someone had specifically posed the question that they had a religious holiday that they went to a family member's house, and they didn't cook anything for them. And it's funny because, so if you know, like my friends, my group of girls that I hang out with, they know we get together once a month, and they make an effort to make sure that there's at least something that I can eat there. The same with one of our girls is a vegetarian, so they make an effort to make sure that there's at least, a veggie tray that she can have something. She doesn't starve all night. But if people don't know, or if you're expecting someone to completely alter an entire meal plan when they're cooking Thanksgiving or whatever,
it's hard to do,
religious meal for a bunch of people. I mean, most people look at me and they're like, "Oh, I don't use a salt shaker." Well,
yeah.
It's a little bit more complicated than that, but thank you for making the effort. And you taste a piece of turkey from your Thanksgiving meal, and it about burns your mouth. It's got so much salt in the brine. So there's stuff with that. But it was just funny that the expectation so often is that you show up and you just expect people to do things for you. You didn't tell them. You didn't say anything. You didn't give them any kind of education as to what or why, or the importance behind why you're on restriction. And then you get super ticked off that they didn't accompany your needs or wants.
And you're just smelling all the food, getting hungry.
Right. So, I mean, I get why you're angry.
Yeah.
Because, you're starving and you can't eat anything there. If you as much as brush against a bowl of gravy, you're probably going to overdose on sodium. But here nor there.
A store-bought bowl of gravy.
Well, even that's why today we're talking about sauces.
I'm going to get saucy today.
Even they're really salty.
Yeah. So it's interesting that why do people worry more about calories than sodium?
The same reason they worry more about gluten. Or there used to be a cabbage diet, and now the keto diet. And
I take a cabbage. I like
you and me both. We could go on a little cabbage cruise. It's the same thing, whatever's popular. And salt is literally the most popular, most prescribed diet around the world. And no one ever talks about it, hears about it, or says anything. But if you say, hey, I got to watch my salt, chances are there's 10 people in the room that go, yeah, so do I. I got blood pressure, or heart issues, or kidney, liver, whatever, spleen, Mariner's disease, however you say that. It's like, wow, there's 10 people in here that are exactly like me. They don't watch their salt, but they should. And no one ever talks about it. So it's, calorically, if you balance what you eat, the calories, it's not that they're not important.
Yeah.
They're less important.
Yes.
So, I mean,
right.
You just kind of balance it.
Hey,
Dad.
That's what we've been taught. Hey, Hal, how are you?
Yeah, that would be my dad.
Yeah, nice. I'm not Peter. Sorry.
Yeah. My cohort is gone. He'll be back.
He's doing important things today.
Yeah. So, it's funny because most of the sauces that people think of or talk of are not any of the classical sauces. And most of the sauces, they're called mother sauces. Mm-hmm. And unless you're classically trained, which again, I'm not, I pretend that I am on Facebook. The only one that people usually know of is either a bechamel or a hollandaise sauce. The other ones, very few people are going to hear of or know how to pronounce.
Yeah. I love a good hollandaise sauce though.
It's
always,
well, you know,
I love, as long as it doesn't break. You gotta be able to whip that and stir it all at the same time.
that's the problem, and that's the fear with most sauces. It's funny because hollandaise is fat and eggs. So I mean, it's no different
That's
than
why
fried
it's
eggs.
good.
It's just mixed at a very slow.
That's why it's good.
Right. That's kind of what
Uh,
it is on everything.
and of course, sauces maximize flavor,
Right.
and jazz up any meal, right?
Right.
And that's why a lot of the classically trained chefs
Right.
use some sort of sauce, a béarnaise sauce
Mhm.
or something, right?
And that's what's funny is a lot of home cooks and when you look at a classically trained chef or somebody who's been culinarily trained, they season things after the fact.
Yeah, they do.
There's a lot of stuff that is brined, so it's seasoned beforehand, but the majority, you watch a chef cook a steak, or I had just recently posted Gordon Ramsay's, I'll say his name a million times because unless he's going to knock on my door to sponsor me.
Guy. Yeah, Gordon.
Yeah.
We know you're listening, Gordon.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, he should comment any second now.
Yeah. Would love to have a little bit of that money to sponsor the
Right.
show.
He makes classically, how you're supposed to make scrambled eggs, and I posted that the other day.
Yeah.
But same thing, you salt it afterwards because the same reason I can't have salt is because it attracts water and builds up in my blood, and then my blood just turns into salt water. It pulls the water out of the eggs and out of everything else and out of the butter, and then you get watery, goopy eggs versus salting them after the fact. So if you're on a low sodium diet, you just don't salt after the fact. So something like Parmesan cheese, Gruyere cheese, Asiago, they're really, really potent. The stinky cheese, the foot cheese that everybody complains about. And they are really high in sodium. I always have Asiago in my house. The reason is because a little bit goes a long way. So it might be 400 milligrams for a small little dose or a serving of Asiago, but literally 2 or 3 little shreds in your eggs for somebody who doesn't have salt.
So it's
like Spam. You can open a can of Spam and almost taste the salt on that.
Spam.
That's another thing. But my husband made Gordon Ramsay's eggs. He doesn't know how to make very many things, and he makes a damn good scrambled egg. So he could probably fool you into thinking he's classically trained and he knows how to make scrambled eggs, spaghetti, and a grilled cheese sandwich.
Right? Those eggs have to be a little bit moist, but not overly wet, and fluffy. And,
now we're getting saucy.
We're getting saucy. But
careful, Kent. My dad's listening.
But, yeah, easy. Sorry. The interesting thing is, too, with sauces, right, is a lot of times it's made from a lot of the stock and stuff that's left over from the cooking.
It is. And it's another funny thing is, again, you don't have to make those salty. Now, of course, a stock is typically salted by nature simply because of the sodium coming out of the product that it's made with. Animal proteins and vegetables almost all have sodium in them, and things like celery that you put in almost every stock. Celery is really high in sodium.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So are carrots, so are beets. So all of these things that are fabulously healthy for you are high in sodium. However, they are high in dietary sodium. It's naturally balanced with the product. It's naturally balanced with the fiber, the sugars, and the sugars are balanced. It's glucose, fructose. It's balanced. It's not, you add it afterwards, and it's right. It's completely unbalanced. So, but it is naturally high. So if you make a vegetable stock and add no salt to it whatsoever, you're still looking at the label going, holy crap, like how can this have so much salt in it? And it really does. But you can get those low sodium and make a stock with it. And if you use something that is lower in salt, like bacon grease.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have the bacon. Of course, we all want the bacon. I want the bacon.
I enjoy bacon.
Right. There's a chef.
I do a lot of cooking with bacon grease, actually.
There's a chef friend of mine in Foul Mouth Foodies that pretty much every day, I know that group is fantastic. Aaron, he's good people. But at least every day, he posts something that's wrapped in bacon bacon wrap pickles, bacon wrap this, bacon. And if it's not bacon, it's prosciutto, which is just Italian bacon. So it's like, I didn't use bacon today. I used prosciutto. Well, it's the same thing.
Very salty. Yeah.
It is.
Bacon.
Yeah. So you can cook with the grease, because the process in which you brine or you cure something through osmosis, it's actually absorbed into the chemical structure of the protein or the vegetable or the meat itself. So the fat that's left over is really low sodium, but it has the flavor.
Yeah, it has that good flavor.
So a couple tablespoons of bacon grease in your Brussels sprouts,
always good.
And suddenly you can get people who don't like Brussels sprouts to eat Brussels sprouts. One of these days I'm going to make Pete eat Brussels sprouts.
Actually, with the Brussels sprouts that you had last week, was it?
Those were 100% no salt.
And I did reheat them in a pan with bacon grease. So
see,
that's what I do.
See,
so if I understand correctly, your maiden name is Kitchen.
It is. So
Mary's Kitchen.
Funny little tangent about this is, if you go to the grocery store, and I'm going to regret saying this because I'll probably get 8 million shipments of this now. At least every few years, my older sister thinks it's hilarious to send me a can of Mary Kitchen corned beef hash. So you can go to a grocery store and it's disgusting.
Just get her some swag. I'm like hearing this noise, but it's actually the coffee pot.
Yes, it's the percolator. So the funny part is when I got married and became a chef.
Yes.
There's a good friend of mine who used to be a client of mine, and he would literally go into the settings and change my email name every time he emailed me. And as soon as we started becoming friends and co-workers or whatever you want to call it, it was Mary Spoon, Mary Fork, Mary Egg, Mary Pan. He changed it every time. So every time I got an email, that was the response on the top was, to Mary Spoon. And then when I got married and I said, just to let you know, I'd let most of my clients know that, I was changing my name, changing my email, going through that whole process. My name was going to be Shep. And he gut laughed for about 10 minutes and says, "Oh my God, you've got to hyphenate your name." Like, what? I don't get the humor in that, especially literally a gut laugh.
Right.
He says, "Are you kidding me? Mary Kitchen Chef?" I was like, I spent 2 decades as a kitchen, and you think I'm going to marry a man named Chef with an F? And I'm not going to make him change his name to Smith or something. Like, I am not going to hyphenate my name and be Mary Kitchen Chef. So, of course, then he changed hyphenated, my name was Mary Kitchen Chef on every email from there forward, because that was funny. But yes, my maiden name is Kitchen.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. So,
sauces can really take a meal up another notch.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, they can be used before cooking. They can be used after. They don't have to be made. I mean, it can be a different sauce altogether than what you could have a raspberry something sauce, right?
You can, and it's funny because people, they get so intimidated, and I get why you get intimidated by cooking. But there's 5 mother sauces in classic culinary cooking. 5, not 5,000. Now there is 5,000 different sauces. Like the bechamel is Mornay sauce, Sobeys sauce. I can't even pronounce the French one that is a shrimp sauce. It's not Nantouillet. I'm not French and I don't like shrimp very much, so I never cook that sauce.
I get it.
Your classic, cheese sauce that you use for.
It's usually just garlic butter for the shrimp.
And I mean, it's Sobeys is pretty much just a bechamel with onions and shrimp butter or shrimp or some kind of seafood flavoring stock. So all of these mother sauces create, these little baby sauces. And it's the same thing that I do. So I typically use wine because like there's a tomate sauce that it's traditionally made with pork salt, obviously, or salted pork, I should say.
Salted pork, right.
That's a big no-no for us. It doesn't matter. There's,
if you're living the low sodium lifestyle.
Salted pork, salted herring, anything that says salted, like salted
pretzel.
Caramel ice cream, that's fantastic.
I had a concrete mixer yesterday.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
That's why I was in the gym at 4 this morning trying to get rid of that.
yeah. But no, it's 5 sauces. So I always tell people if you if you can master one, and the one that I would always say to start with is a roux isn't really a sauce. It's a base to almost all of the sauces.
Mm-hmm.
It's flour and butter.
Now, she was one of the Golden Girls.
Maybe.
Yeah.
She might have been a little salty.
Roux. Hey, bada boom. Thank you very much.
But if you can, it can be difficult because butter splits, and most people at home don't cook with clarified butter.
No.
And it's not readily available to buy clarified butter, so you got to make your own clarified butter. So it's a whole other process. But you can make a roux with regular butter. It's just because butter is 15% water, and the rest is all the milk fats and whatnot. But that means you have to reduce how much flour. But if you play with it, I don't measure mine anymore. I'm not making food for Gordon Ramsay. If I was, I might measure my food a little bit better. But you can still mess around with it until you get it down. And once you can make that basic roux, you've got it set. You can make a bechamel with cream. You can make a stock velouté. You can make almost all of the mother sauces just based on a roux.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are a little salty.
Thanks, Al. I appreciate 20-year Navy man.
Yeah.
Thanks for your service. My son is on his way over to the Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the Navy, so
Yeah. That's
what's that?
poke chops and
poke chops and applesauce. You did a little Peter Brady there.
I see.
I picked it up, Sal. Little Peter Brady. Poke chops and
that
applesauce.
Is, I do actually have a really good.
We aren't talking about applesauce today. We are talking about sauces, not necessarily applesauce today.
So technically, applesauce is more of a chutney. It's not really a sauce.
It is.
But I digress.
All right. So if we look at it, sauces can be smooth, creamy, chunky. They can add a lot of texture, right? Oil based, liquid. You keep bringing up bechamel.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to us normal folk
what bechamel
is? Bechamel a boy band from Germany, or what exactly is bechamel?
That'd be a pretty interesting boy band. A creamy boy band,
right? Hey, Gary, good morning. Happy
Singapore.
Friday. Happy Friday, my friend.
So again, back to the roux, flour and butter. If you can make a good roux, you make it a white roux, which is for bechamel, which is white sauces, because you don't cook it very much.
I love
flour,
white sauces.
Just like butter or bread, you can have white bread and you can have a very brown bread. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with a bechamel. The more you cook it, the darker it gets. And then the different kinds of sauce you make and the actual flour in that roux gets a really nutty flavor. But a bechamel is essentially a roux, and you add cream to thicken it up. So if you think biscuits and gravy, if you think mac and cheese, if you think, just about any creamy kind of sauce that you can imagine is going to start with a bechamel. If you add heavy cream, then I can't.
Yeah, so it's just the sauce is thickening hot milk or cream, right?
Right.
With the roux, a simple white roux.
I'm trying to think of and
then
because velouté is stock, and I can't remember which one. There's another one that is just heavy cream, and now I'm not going to be able to think of it, but that's okay. So your basic bechamel is literally just that flour and butter mixture that kind of turns into a super thick paste, and you season it and add milk to it. And you've got a basic cream sauce.
Gary, over in Singapore, are they big on sauces in Singapore? And if so, what kind of sauces are they slinging on the food in Singapore? I'm just interested. Stephanie says, do you ever use those bouillon pastes to make a sauce, or is that too salty?
Too salty. There are low sodium bouillon. The issue with low sodium anything is 9 times out of 10 it is made with a salt substitute. So salt substitutes are by and large potassium chloride. So you're just substituting sodium chloride for potassium chloride, and we discussed this in a previous show where potassium chloride is the last thing they inject into your vein for lethal injection in the chair for criminal punishment. So that's how good that stuff is for you. You do need potassium, but yeah.
Yeah. So Gary says, I believe bechamel is made of 3 basic components: flour, butter, and milk.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And Sal asks, can you use other flours besides wheat flour and still get a delicious sauce?
You can. It gets a little tricky because they have different absorption rates, and they have different textures, and they have different grains, and so it does get a little tricky. But you can absolutely make different bechamel sauces with different flours. You just kind of have to mess with it a little bit. But once you get the basics of a bechamel down, you can mess with it as much or as little as you want. So it's kind of a whole across the board. That's what I actually used to make my mac and cheese the other day. Is just a basic bechamel sauce, and added a whole boatload of cheese to it.
Some cheddar, Worcestershire.
They actually, you know what? It's funny is a lot of people think that you can't have the Worcestershire sauce because of how high it is in sodium.
Yeah, it's very sodium.
But Leon Perrins actually makes a low sodium variety that is very readily available at just about any grocery store I've ever been to. It sits right next to the normal stuff. It just has reduced sodium on it, and it is very low. So I use it quite frequently.
That's lovely.
But yeah, no, bechamels are not very intimidating. They are easy to make, and even if it does split and your sauce kind of separates, it's typically still good. I mean, I've split my fair share of sauces, and my husband looks at me and I feel like crap because I love cooking and I like doing it right, and when I make it wrong, it just flat out pisses me off.
I'm with you.
But it's still good,
especially with the radio shows. If it doesn't, I get
doesn't
upset.
go right.
Gary from Singapore says more Asian sauces which contain ingredients like soy sauce, oyster sauce, etc. Very rarely do Asian dishes have Western style sauces like bechamel.
They don't, because they don't use a lot of cream. They don't use a lot of dairy. They use more of the soy and the fermented products. Now, it's funny with the soy sauces. I'm not sure why. It's probably the way in which it's made and the fermentation process. Even though they're really high in sodium, I can handle soy sauce, a good soy sauce, not just one that has crap sauce or crap salt added to it for flavor. A lot better than I can so I can up my sodium level if I'm having soy sauce if it's a good brand. For whatever reason, it's just that fermentation product. So fermented products that are higher in sodium, and everybody's different. So, if you're salt restricted, don't take my advice and go have some soy sauce because Mary said so. But it does. It affects me completely different than just, adding 6 tablespoons of some kind of sauce. But yeah, over Asian sauces and Asian culture in general just they don't do cream sauces.
Gary says we do eat macaroni in Asian cooking, usually cooked in a chicken stock broth with shredded chicken pieces.
Yep.
Mac and cheese is not Asian plate though. No, mac and cheese is a Southern soulful, just good. That's comfort food right there.
Yeah, easy.
That's American comfort food.
Well, comfort's a matter of perspective.
Mark Stewart says, Mary, you were talking about what is it?
Clarified butter.
Clarified butter. What do you think about
ghee? Ghee, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff, and you can use it. Pretty much, fat is fat, just like salt is salt. It's going to change certain things a little bit, so you have to tinker with things a little bit. But I have made plenty of my sauces using ghee. It's just another processed fat.
Nice. And Sal, what are some good spicy sauces? Good.
So my husband he stole as I always say, my coveted wine sauce, because I think it's funny. Everybody wants my wine sauce, and it's again, once you start learning the
That's how we met. I was actually in her kitchen trying to steal your wine sauce,
sneaking through the window. In the kitchen with kitchen. There you go. I should change that. You know how many times I've heard that one. But my wine sauce is, I saute onions and garlic in the little 6-ounce bottles of wine you can buy in the 4-pack at the grocery store. Dump that in and reduce it until it's almost completely gone. And then I'll add, a broth, a stock, or water just to make it a sauce if I wanted a sauce, or I'll just put those whiny reduced onions over something. So he took that, and we grow jalapenos. I make him cowboy candy, which is jalapeno on a stick. We grow jalapenos, and I came home one day. He's like, I'm going to make lunch, and I'm thinking this is my husband. He's going to make a cheese sandwich, which is usually what he does,
or a frozen pizza.
Right, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
He makes a lot of those too. So he breaks out a pan, and I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be Gordon Ramsay eggs. Nope. He decides he's going to make my wine sauce with sliced, sautéed jalapenos and some Frank's Red Hot, and put it over a brat.
That does sound
and
good.
I'm sitting there looking at him eating this bratwurst, which I can't have, and he didn't salt the sauce, but still, I'm like, this is a beautiful sauce that my husband just whipped out purely from watching me make it so often, is how simple it is, because literally the man doesn't really cook a whole lot of stuff. Actually. But now mind you, when you cook jalapenos, it releases that oil into the atmosphere, so your entire house will burn your eyes.
Yeah. It's better. It's better than
I had to leave because our lungs were burning, and he does it every once in a while. But you can actually get capsaicin oil and make any sauce hot. The problem with hot sauces is when you cook peppers, they lose their heat. Yeah. So I'll pickle my jalapenos all the time, and I can eat them. And I don't do hot stuff real well. So it's funny that's why I actually buy the capsaicin sauce or the oil, because it's the only way to get a lot of heat into something a lot of times. Yeah. But I honestly, we don't do a whole lot of spicy. My husband does spicy. I've just started getting spicy, which is, if you can handle spicy, is a great way to overcome not having salt.
There you go.
So
it is. Now, Gary out in Singapore says, may come as a surprise, but there's a large swath of Asian population that is lactose intolerant.
Yep.
So cheese and milk style cooking, not too popular over there.
Well, technically, to be honest, Gary, everybody is sort of lactose intolerant. We're not supposed to be drinking another animal's milk. So that was kind of a political publicity.
I stopped once the cow stepped on my head. I'm sorry.
That being said, when you have
no salt there,
right,
a little sweaty, but I just threw her
lactose. You did a little bit. Sorry I couldn't help you in a cow pasture getting stepped on by a cow.
Right. You're all welcome for that wonderful picture.
Little tidbit of information about lactose intolerance. If you are lactose intolerant or you have a sensitivity to it, you can eat a lot of times hard cheeses, like the cheddar cheeses, the Parmesan cheeses, and stuff like that, because the process in which the cheese is made, it removes most of those lactates. Yeah. So you can eat those without having the same dietary
It's really
distress.
It's all how it's processed.
It is.
The enzymes that are there.
Get yourself some Amish cheese. That stuff is fabulous.
Some Amish cheese.
Yeah.
I'd have to try that.
Yeah.
I've had their cheese curds, and they make wonderful cabinets.
And ice cream.
They
make lots of good stuff, to be honest.
Well, I tell you what, you are listening to My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Shep. I'm Kent Jones, right here on 21.6, the Internet Radio. Of course, your LoSo Lifestyle reaches thousands of listeners every week, with new shows broadcasting every Thursday right at this time. So whatever time it is, in whatever time zone you are, it's usually airing right now because we're live. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there are three ways you can listen to us. Check us out. Download the app in your Google Play Store or your Apple App Store, or check us out at www.216thenet.com and just hit listen live, or you can watch us right here on Facebook too, which several of you are. And we appreciate all 345 people that are on Facebook right now watching us live, which is nice. But just a couple quick shout outs to some people. X-Tech LLC. X-Tech provides device repair and service plans, business servers, and single computer support, web design, and SEO. X-Tech also specializes in custom gaming PC builds. Contact Justin and George for IT done right the first time. X-Tech LLC. Check them out, 815-516-8075, or at X-Tech. It's xtek.repair. Ever wonder why your website is not showing up online where you want it to be? Want to make sure you're found when somebody's searching for your kind of business? Prime Media Consulting helps small business owners optimize their exposure on major search engines to transform their business. Call Prime Media Consulting LLC today at 847-752-0018 or reach out to us at primemediaconsulting.com and learn how they can make your impression on the web. And lastly, McHenry Villa, a senior living community. Check them out at www.mchenryvilla.com or 815-344-0246. McHenry Villa is committed to the core values of hospitality, stewardship, integrity, respect, and humor. At McHenry Villa, their goal is to make you feel comfortable at home. McHenry Villa, a senior living community. Now back to the show. All right.
Oh, I was listening to the commercials.
There we go. Their cheddar is quite popular here with the kids, like Kraft's cheddar. Yeah, I imagine.
Oh yeah, well, I get grief every once in a while for, you don't have to make everything so low sodium. Yeah, I do.
No,
because then I can put
Literally.
I can put 17 pounds of cheese on it. If I make it super low in sodium, then I can have my vice, which is cheese.
That's it. So you handed me this
my little notes.
Wonderful notes for the show, and some sauces that you make normally are heavily salted sauces, right? And you can make these not too salty.
Yep. One of the thing when I first got diagnosed, it's terrifying, to be honest. You got a million things going through your mind, and then all of a sudden you're trying to find something to eat, and everything in your cabinet is salted and salted and salted and salted. And I ate a plain piece of chicken that was unfortunately salted because it was brined, and I didn't know it, but I didn't care because at that point I was so upset. And some mashed potatoes, and I lived on. Once I found some unsalted chicken, I lived on that for a while, and I decided I was going to start with one thing and slowly work through my recipe repertoire and build stuff. And one of the first things that I did was a pizza sauce. Pizza sauces in general are anywhere from $250 on the low side, well into the thousands for a single serving of pizza sauce. So one slice of pizza can suddenly blow your entire day simply because of the sauce that's on it. So I worked tirelessly for a while and came up with a pizza sauce that I might be biased because it's mine.
Of course.
But my husband and I love it. There's quite a few people in my group, Shaking the Salt, that love it. Well, I shouldn't say it's my group. I'm an admin in that group. But it's a great sauce, and it has no salt in it, so it works out pretty good.
I'm close to moving in.
When are you moving?
To McHenry Villa. I'm getting old. Yeah.
But pizza sauce is one of those big ones. So I started with that one and made that sauce without any salt, and it turned out fairly good. And of course, that kind of boosts you up a little bit when you make something that you didn't think you can have, or you find something that you didn't think you can have, and you say, okay, that there is a light, there is something that I can do, and even if it's all I'm doing is eating pizza the rest of my life, so be it. I figured I'd start with something that was okay. I'd be okay eating the rest of my life. But all of them, and a lot of my sauces are based on that basic wine sauce. Because if you can't use salt, and if you can't drink, and people think that even when you cook with alcohol, it cooks all of the alcohol out, that is a misconception. It does not. So if you do have a drinking addiction or something of that nature, they can't cook with it. There's no alcohol in the house. There's no nothing. They can't. And there are substitutes to that. So you can use a stock or a broth, or I've even used unsweetened cranberry juice and reduced that to make a sauce. It is a different taste. But that basic wine base or cranberry base can make just about any sauce that you can think of, and it makes things really tasty.
So is pizza sauce the most eaten sauce in the world?
I'd probably say cheese sauces.
Cheese sauce?
I would guess cheese.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say
I tried
cheese
to I tried to Google, but it took me to condiments and
and then you start looking at applesauce and chutneys and ketchups and mustards.
Mayonnaise is the number one condiment used in the world. Mayonnaise.
I believe that because I love that stuff, and it is
Mm.
actually fairly low sodium most of the time.
Mhm.
I dip my French fries in it.
So when we're dealing with sauces, and we're dealing with especially low sodium, now a low sodium lifestyle is good for everybody.
Right.
It just is. And but yet when you watch a Food Network, when you watch a any type of cooking show, or you even go to culinary school,
Yep.
they're taking the salt and they're whipping
By
it
the
from
handful.
5 feet up, and they're
Yeah.
like, you,
It's like a circus event.
and they're like, you didn't season. They
Yep.
call it, this is seasoning. So it's the salt. The Bible talks about salt of the
Mhm.
earth, right? Adds flavor, all this stuff. So for people who haven't lived a low sodium
Mhm.
lifestyle or tried, how do you get them to break from that saltiness to understand the flavors that are in the food? Because literally,
It's hard.
so you gave me last week we had the Brussels sprouts.
Mhm.
You had some pickles on,
Mhm.
and I jokingly said they needed salt, right? But it is delicious.
Mhm.
The flavor is there, but it's not loaded with salt. So yesterday you had a French fry that had no salt on it.
Mhm.
So I ate that, and then I ate somebody's who did, and boy, you can really,
Yeah.
it's like pow.
Yep.
Right.
So it's funny. The palate is a funny thing. It's, if you think of a kid who is a quote unquote picky eater, and you need to be exposed to something a couple dozen times.
Yeah.
A, psychologically, for you to accept that it's okay, and B, for your palate to adjust to it. And everybody has different palates. There's sweet and there's bitter palates. I have a sweeter palate. My husband has a bitter palate. It's why he likes olives and hot peppers and stuff like that. I like the sweet stuff. But it does, depending on your taste buds and your palate, it changes the way things taste. Now, the same as hot sauce. Someone who eats hot sauce all the time can handle hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and then they just exponentially get hotter.
Right.
It's the same with salt. You start with a little bit, and then a little bit's not enough. I used to salt my ketchup.
Oof.
Ketchup's already really salty.
Yeah.
If you're
No,
unsalted, it's
you
really
rip
salty.
the little pack while you're at
And you put your
McDonald's,
salt on your ketchup on your salted fries,
I've
and
seen
it's
people
like
do that.
it was good stuff. But you're tasting the salt, and it's not the food. So once and everybody's different. It's like quitting smoking. Some people can just quit.
Yeah.
And some people got to wean off. I'm an all or nothing kind of girl, so I emptied everything out of my house that had salt in it, with the exception of the stuff that was for my husband.
Yeah.
His hot peppers, his pepperoncinis, stuff like that stayed. But it was an all or nothing cold turkey, and it still took me about 4 to 6 weeks for my palate to completely adjust. And I happened to be driving somewhere with my sister, and she had a little zip baggie of almonds. And we're just talking. I reached, she's my sister.
Right.
So I just reached in, threw a handful in my mouth, and I literally spit them. I thought the window was open. It wasn't open. I spit them at the window. But it was one of those like, oh yeah, almonds, throw them in your mouth. And it just burnt my tongue from the salt. But I found that I can taste now the difference between a white potato, a yellow potato, a purple potato.
It's true.
You can taste the food.
Mm-hmm.
And just about all food, if you roast it or sear it, we touched on this before too, the Maillard reaction. It changes the chemical structure of the proteins in the food and makes them taste salted. So you can sear Brussels sprouts or, vegetables or squash or, any kind of meat, and it tastes salted when it's not. So it's just a matter of learning certain cooking techniques. Or, I joke that I cook garlic and just add stuff to it, because any dish of mine has about 17 cloves of garlic in it.
That's what I'm a garlic guy as well.
You see a recipe, 1 clove of garlic. Oh, you're cute. No, I'll cut a whole head of garlic and throw it in there.
Yeah, but that's there are other things you can add for flavor.
Mm-hmm. And spice is one of them.
If you think, and a good salt-free sauce can add that flavor.
It can, and it's why I start a lot of my sauces with sautéed onions. Because even if you don't use the wine part of it, if you saute onions and garlic in some butter or some bacon fat or pork fat, that it is relatively low in sodium. You can get unsalted butter and it still gives you that fatty flavor. But if you saute those onions in there, you get that saltiness that you're looking for without having the salt. And you just add a flavor in a different way. And especially if you add spice, if you can handle spice. And now that I don't use salt, and the more I use spice, I've been able to handle a little bit more. So I do use a fair amount of chipotle powder. The smokiness and it just a little bit goes a long way if you can't handle heat. But that little bit of a kick, you get almost the same reception in your palate as you do from salt. The same with acids, lemon juice, things like that. That acid kicks things up a notch and adds you a saltiness that you didn't think you had.
And
what are you moving?
The idea really, right, is with a sauce to bring flavor, add a little life to the dish, is really just kind of play around with them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hit or miss. It doesn't have to be grandma's lumpy sauce that you put on your pot roast.
Right. I will say that speaking of pot roast, one thing that a mistake that a lot of people make with soups or casseroles or sauces and things of that nature, both potatoes and pasta will absorb a lot. So like when I made my macaroni and cheese the other day, my husband looks at this big pot of sauce and, I'm thinking the same thing, like this is a lot of sauce and it's kind of runny and it looks really liquidy. But then even with the Brussels sprouts, it was this huge vat. But as soon as you add it, especially pasta, it absorbs so much.
Yeah.
And then the next day when you go to reheat it, it doesn't look like there's anything on it at all.
It's all dry.
But it's there, and you can add just a little touch of cream or water to your pasta when you reheat it, and all of a sudden it's all cheesy again.
Now, speaking of the next day, low sodium food, is it good cold? Because like the macaroni and cheese, I try not to use the microwave a lot to heat things up. And a lot of that is when I was a kid and microwaves first came out, my parents said, you got to stand 10 feet back or you're going to get
brain damage,
right.
Tumors growing out of your eyeballs.
As a lot of you know, I got way too close. Anyway.
Turn into a gremlin.
So I like to just heat it up the right way. Otherwise, I just eat it cold. I'll eat leftovers cold all the time. And of course, when there's salt in that, when it's been, as they say, seasoned with salt, you get that the next day.
Right.
But when it's low sodium and it's cold, is it good, better? Or what are the flavors? What happens with the flavor?
It's the same as any other food where you know how everything's better the next day. You make a pot roast and the next day it's better. And you make spaghetti and the next day it's better. And
I mean, all the Asian food, Gary.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, right?
Because of soy sauce, Asian food is coveted in the low sodium world. So if you can find something that's low sodium in Asian cuisine, Cantonese cuisine, any of that, it's coveted. But leftovers, it's the same, where everything tastes a little bit better the next day because the flavors and the seasoning has had time to marry. So for a long time in our old house, our microwave broke. So we didn't have a microwave. We moved into the new place. We plugged it in. Our old microwave didn't work. We didn't plan for it. So we just said, all right, we'll get one. And then we never did. And we didn't have one and our friends would be like, we'd have company and I'm going to nuke this sauce. Where's your microwave? Oh, we don't have one. And they look at us like we were the craziest people on the planet not having a microwave. But I like macaroni and cheese, like you said, it's all cakey and gooky. And you can just add a quarter cup of water to it and stir it up a little bit.
Nice,
and put it in a pan and you can heat it up just the same as anything else. And it makes it a nice creamy sauce again. And for you who can have salt, you can just dump a quarter cup of cream or milk or whatever in there. Same concept. So you can reheat just about anything. Mushrooms are the only thing I really don't care for reheated. Yeah, it's a textural thing.
They're good cold.
They are good cold.
So with ramen, you get a flavored salt pack.
Yeah. And a lot of people
think kind of sauce do you put on your ramen noodles? Or do you stay away from ramen noodles?
The problem with, the ramen noodles themselves are salty. So, pasta a lot of times is not salty. You have to look, but usually pasta is almost always zero sodium. But ramen noodles, if you actually look, it doesn't
the noodle itself is something.
Unless you find like in Asian markets and stuff like that, you can find just the ramen noodles. But in the little packet you're talking
the
about
top
with
ramens.
the little 50-cent packet of ramen noodles, that nutritional information is for the entire thing. So a lot of people think
It's
that
in the
if they
little
take out the
packets.
salt packet,
Yeah.
there's no salt in those noodles because there's no salt in spaghetti.
No, don't get me wrong.
That's
Top
true.
Ramen, we'd love to have you as a sponsor
yeah.
for the show.
Get
Feel
some
free to
low-sodium
send the
options.
check in to 216 tonight.
But yeah, again, my wine sauce with some stock.
Yeah.
And it
With those noodles.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
So I mean, this show has we've been living the LoSo lifestyle now for about 5 weeks. Is that right? And I haven't had the opportunity to be on the show, but Peter has. And have we seen this wine sauce on anything, Peter?
Your Brussels sprouts.
It was on the Brussels sprouts, then it is delicious. If that's what was on the Brussels sprouts, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that was the base inside the Brussels sprouts. I'll bring you in.
But I didn't. Pete's just like, hey, you like Brussels sprouts? I'm like, yeah, I love Brussels sprouts. Oh yeah, Mary left some.
Yeah.
And so I
left a huge bowl and you ate them all.
So I didn't even ask what was in it. I took it home and I cooked it. I'm like, I don't know, I had a big chunk of chicken or something. And she's like, that was pork. I didn't even care what was it because I just love Brussels sprouts. But it was delicious. There were like little grapes and carrots and things.
That's the other thing. People don't think of roasted grapes, and they're fantastic. When you roast vegetables, try throwing some grapes in there. Slice them in half, some seedless grapes. Is it so good? It's so good.
Yeah. They're just they're wonderful.
Yeah.
Which is good. So as we're closing in on the back 10 minutes of this show.
I spelled that wrong.
It's all right. Nobody can see it on the radio.
They can see it.
They know now.
They know.
But is this where we talk about the FYI?
A little bit.
When do you roll into your FYIs?
Well, no, we just kind of roll.
Now, are you on my LoSo lifestyle out on Facebook? Follow, like, share. Are you going to be putting some of these sauces out there?
Most of them are on there. I know. I just posted today my pizza sauce. And the Brussels sprout recipe, I believe, is posted.
Okay.
If you go on my page, there is a photo album called My Food and Recipes. And if you click on the photos, a lot of them have it attached to the photo, or at least a photo comment.
Of course.
I'm trying to post the actual recipe to go with the photo as many ways as I can, because not everybody is super Facebook savvy. And then I get a million messages that say I can't find the recipe, I can't see the thing, all I can see is the picture, and it's right there. It's
right there.
I've tested it with friends to make sure that they can see it, and you can see it on Apple devices and Android devices. So I try and post it as many ways as I can, but I did post my pizza sauce recipe today, just so it's front and center since we were talking about it. But yeah, we kind of, I like to pull up little tidbits. Like a lot of times I try and mention that Himalayan salt is still salt. Because everybody thinks, I can have pink salt. I eat the healthy stuff. Well, no, it's still salt.
Himalayan salt is too. Let's not leave it on that. Mary should make a trip over to Southeast Asia here. Most Asian cities are 24-hour gastronomy environment.
I would love to. I actually had thought about visiting last year. My best friend was in Okinawa, Japan. I know it's not Singapore, but her husband is military, so they were stationed there for many, many years. She's actually in Virginia now. But it's really expensive to fly overseas.
The other thing is, when you get to be Peter Galt's age, who's usually on this show, he becomes a gastronomy environment too.
So does my husband.
The interesting thing is, Gary, of course, once we get the right sponsor in here, we'll take this on the road. Right. They'll sponsor it. They'll,
we'll broadcast live from our jet.
Singapore. Wheels up in 30. Let's go. Right. Absolutely. Would love to do that. So, here's what I'm going to suggest everybody. Most of us that are listening in the Northern Hemisphere are getting ready for it's fall, and it's probably 90% of the people's favorite time of year.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of cooking, a lot of baking, a lot of things that go on, a lot of comfort food stuff going on. My challenge and my LoSo lifestyle challenge would be create it and do it in a low sodium and see how much you like it.
Share it with me.
Yeah, and share it and let us know what you think and how it is. Now, one of the tips is if you can't stand it, just add the seasoning afterwards.
Right, you can, and that's the thing. You can try cooking without salt.
Yeah.
And then add it out. So one that I like, especially with the Thanksgiving time rolling around, that I like to tell people to try is acorn squash. Split it in
Love it.
half, put butter, brown sugar, just like you would sweet potatoes.
That's so good. We just
I
had
put
that
a
the
little
other day.
chipotle powder on top
Oh,
and roast
nice.
it.
Nice.
And it's fantastic. It's so easy to make. You
That's
cut it in
all
half,
right.
throw some crap on top of it, put it on a pan, put it in the oven for 45 minutes, and you can eat the skin. It's not not everybody's flavor. Like some people don't like the skin of a baked potato,
Yeah,
but you can eat the skin. It's actually pretty good for you.
I didn't know that.
But start with things like that. And I did post my Thanksgiving menu. You can see that on my page under my menus tab. I'm still working on making more menus. It's very time and labor intensive, so forgive me. I'm working on it. But yeah, that's the acorn squash is a good one to start with. It's pretty easy. Pretty easy stuff.
That is good. So, what a lot of people like to do is take baths in Epsom salts. If you are living a low sodium lifestyle, can I still take a bath in Epsom salt?
The same as the Himalayan pink salt question. The Epsom salt is the same question that comes across multiple times a week. And it's actually magnesium sulfate. It's from Epsom in Surrey, England, is where the name comes from. And it's called salt because of the chemical compound structure of the Epsom salt itself is chemically structured the same as a lot of the salts are. But it has 0 sodium in it. So you can take a bath in it. Now, that being said, magnesium is still something that affects your body. It's still necessary for life. You can still have too much of it or too little of it, just like sodium and potassium and all of those other things that can either, keep you alive or kill you. So there are some people who swear that, I took a bath in Epsom salt or I soaked my feet in it and I still swelled up like a balloon. Well, you're probably sensitive to magnesium or you have a different kind of heart condition or a medication, but it is not because of the sodium content whatsoever. So Epsom salt is actually not salt. However, if you put it on your tomato garden, like put it in the dirt,
go on.
It makes your tomatoes super, super tasty and sweet, and they're higher in magnesium, which is better for you.
There's your gardening tip for the week.
It helps you keep bugs away too. The bugs, not all bugs, but some bugs don't like the Epsom salt. So we put Epsom salt and coffee grounds on our garden. Makes
Coffee grounds are one of the best. We do that as well. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. The tough thing is though, now that we got the curing, we just throw the plastic containers.
Plastic containers covering your garden. You're trying to grow some K-cups.
Yeah. What are you doing? We used to throw our coffee grounds out here, but now we just have K-cups.
So another little interesting fact. I grew up in a Taco Bell world.
Oh yeah, amen.
And I thought for sure that, if I looked at a Taco Bell wrong, I'd die of a sodium overdose if I even came close to it. And it turns out that in 2010, Taco Bell announced that they were going to reduce the sodium in 150 of their restaurants in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
By almost 25%. And no one complained. Like you would think that no one said anything, no one said nothing. And it was one of the first things that I had read about after I got diagnosed, and I thought that was pretty funny. And I'm reading this article, and of course I got diagnosed in 2015. So then I do a little bit more research. Yeah. And because no one complained, they upped the game and they reduced the sodium across their entire menu. And they rolled it out in all of their restaurants. So of all of the fast food restaurants that I can risk if I'm out and starving, of all of the ones you would think that I could, Taco Bell's one of them.
Yeah, and shortly after the announcement that they were reducing the sodium, they also said that they were going to use real meat. No.
That's funny.
I apologize about that.
That's
Taco
funny.
Bell, we love you, and we know you're listening, and we're always looking for good sponsors. So
we're
between
lining
you
up
and
the
Top
sponsors.
Ramen, we're gonna be
Right.
all right. We'll
We're
be
gonna
over
set.
in Singapore before you know it, Gary.
I know, right? 93,000 miles, 19-hour direct flight. Whoo!
Direct flight right out
That's
of
a lot of
Chicago.
Taco Bell.
Right out of Chicago. We'll get there.
Yay.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So the great thing is, of course, my LoSo lifestyle is so much more, as you know, from following us and listening to this fantastic show, more than just low salts, and it's about a lifestyle change.
It is.
And fads come and go. It's not a low sodium diet. Don't look at what we're doing here and what Mary's doing as oh, this is, if I low sodium and go to the gym,
Right.
I'll be.
And I try and that's kind of why I wanted to call it a lifestyle. And it's the same with the low sodium group that I'm a part of, where they call it, shaking the salt, a low sodium lifestyle.
Yeah.
The reason it's a lifestyle is the same with your with my store, with coaching my team. When you do things enough times, it becomes a culture.
Mm-hmm.
And when you commit to something in your life and you do it enough, whether it's food or politics or religion or whatever, it becomes your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same frame of mind. So when you surround yourself by good food and good people and good things, that lifestyle nurtures more good things. And it's kind of what I try to spread with that low sodium lifestyle. It's, I don't know, be a little less salty.
Be a little less salty.
But it is a lifestyle. It's a complete change. You don't think, it's like when people tell me that addiction is, it's whatever, just get over it, quit smoking. Mm-hmm. So if that's what you think, then I challenge you to cut and get rid of and quit sugar. So you tell me addiction isn't real, and then go and try and cut sugar out of your life. You don't need it.
I love potato chips.
Right.
And Doritos.
Right.
That has a lot of sodium.
So you can get what's called citric powder.
Citric powder.
It's essentially lemon juice, but powdered.
Okay.
So that acid, you can take potato chips that are unsalted and put citric powder on them, or citrus powder, or on popcorn. Mm-hmm. And a lot of low salt seasonings have that citrus powder in them. Sure. To give them that salted flavor. So you can get, and you can also get low salt potato chips. So if you cut back on the salt quite a bit in your diet, I have a cabinet full of potato chips, because Lay's makes a barbecue low sodium potato chip that is absolutely fantastic, and I will eat the entire bag, even though I'm not supposed to. Barbecue chip guy. Yeah, I do like the barbecue chips. But yeah, it is a lifestyle, and you can, if you commit to it. I always say, just don't set yourself up for failure. Right. Be honest.
Be honest.
If you're lying to yourself about things, and you say, oh yeah, I had one serving of butter, when you cut half a stick of butter to saute your onions, you're kind of lying to yourself about it. You need to be honest with yourself about it, so you know where those faults lie. I know that I'm not giving up cheese. I know that's not happening. So if I tell myself that I can make a meal and it's right on my threshold of what I can eat, sodium, sugar, carbs, whatever it may be, and then tell myself I'm adding a serving of cheese on it when I'm actually adding half a bag of cheese, you're kind of lying to yourself about it, and then you end up sick, and you end up bummed about it and upset about it, and you set yourself up for failure. So know your limits, know where you're at, and I mean, if you're honest with yourself, you're not going to set yourself up for failure.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2.
Because Hale said I raised a really smart kid. I'm just trying to think which one it is.
He's got some very smart children, because my older sister is a nurse. And
all right, we got 10 seconds.
She's fantastic, and my other sister's a race car driver. They're both super smart people.
You've been listening to my LoSo lifestyle right here, 21.6 and that. We'll catch you next week.
Bye, guys. That's funny. Raised a really smart kid. Thanks, Dad. That's awesome.